Right, good evening everybody, hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to a series of videos which I hope will be really interesting. Now, we're all very, very aware that motorcycles at the moment are getting very, very expensive. Your average adventure bike is north of 17, 18 grand for the big ball ones. They're getting really, really expensive, and I'm mildly concerned that it's pricing a lot of people out of the market. So I was having a chat with some of the guys on the Patreon the other day, and I thought to myself, actually, I wonder if it is possible to buy a bike, insure it, tax it, breakdown cover, buy luggage, and go on a trip for under £1,500. Now, before you skip and go, yeah, of course it's possible, anyone can go out and buy a clapped out 125 for £200-300 off Facebook Marketplace, buy a crap tent for a tenner, and camping a field in Wales, and do it for probably under 500 quid. But I don't want to feel like I'm skimping. I want a bike that's got a decent amount of power, decent amount of torque, decent fuel range, decent MPG, bit of wind protection, not done lunar miles, well looked after. I want to go somewhere interesting, somewhere that people haven't been before. For under £1,500, I'm not going to be able to go to Mongolia or somewhere like that. I should at least be able to go outside of the UK. And also that throws in the additional expense of either the Eurotunnel or a ferry or something to go somewhere. Obviously, for sub £1,500, I need to be under a grand for the bike itself. It's going to have to be older, it's going to have to be a little bit tatty, a little bit higher mileage, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean you can't get a bike that is well looked after, and doesn't mean you can't get a bike that is a decent bike to ride. So I started doing some hunting, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Auto Trader, those standard kind of places that you look. And I've managed to buy something, and it's here. In this set of videos, I'm going to buy a bike, all the legal things that you need to be on the road. I'm going to buy luggage for it, and then I'm going to go on a trip. And I'm going to try to not feel like I am skimping anywhere. Obviously, there's a level of skimping. I'm not on a 35 grand multi-strada staying in the Ritz, but you get my point. Anyway, this is my 1995 Triumph Sprint. I think it's technically a Trident Sprint 900. And I think she's a little beaut. She's got the twin headlights on the front, so she looks very, very 90s, obviously because it's 1995. It is an older bike, but it's still quite punchy for its age. I think it's 95 horsepower or something along those lines. While I walk around this, showing you what the bike is and what it has on it and all that sort of stuff, I want you to stick in the comments how much you think I paid for this. Obviously, you've got an idea of what I paid for it, based on the challenge, because it'd be pretty stupid to pay 1,500 quid for this. I think it's worth a shed load more than what I paid for it, which I'll tell you in a minute. She's got a whopping 63,000 miles, 63,228 miles. It's got a huge folder full of service history. All the valve clearances have been done, all that sort of stuff. She's got the power bronze screen, although it has got a crack in it, with the extender on it. Pyramid Plastics lower rear fairing on it, cowl, whatever you want to call it. Now, in the UK, you need to get something called an MOT, which is a mandatory yearly test to make sure your vehicle is roadworthy. If you have the registration on any vehicle, you can see when the MOTs were done, what mileage it was at, make sure the mileage is all consistent, make sure you can see any advisories or anything it's failed on. Failures would be like lights out, brakes not working, brakes insufficient. The MOT history on this, for the most part, is all passes. There's the odd advisory here and there, but it's just brake pads a little bit low, tyres a little bit low, stuff like that. If it's got really good MOT history all the way through, it tends to mean that that person's cared for the vehicle, or they've just been very, very lucky. The guy I bought this off had pictures of the bike pretty much everywhere. He had south of France, he had Spain, Portugal, all these different places where he's gone on trips on the bike, which is obviously why there's high mileage on it. There's obviously a few little dings and scratches and things like that, but again, it's a 30-year-old bike. You've got paint peeling on the tank cap. I don't know whether that is corrosion or whether it's old paint, like overspray or something like that. That needs a clean up. It's got a decent chain on it that's relatively new, decent sprockets on it that's relatively new. The brakes are all good. It's got twin exhausts on it, which are obviously from factory. It's got the rear rack from Triumph, which is really nice. There are some questionable upgrades which I'm going to sort out before I do the trip. One of them being these heated grips. Now, these are the type of fat hot grip things. I don't know what you call them. I hate these things. The heated grips do still work. I just detest them because if any of you go to the gym, you will know that there's those clamp things. They're rubber clamps and they go over dumbbells. I'm gonna have to be careful how much I do this. It thickens your grip, which means there's more tension in your forearms. Your grip should be like that, and that's where it's comfortable. being a thicker grip, it actually gives you arm pump way quicker. There are some bits I am going to change that I'm not going to include in the budget because this bike already has them. The reason I'm not going to include it is because I've bought this bike with heated grips on, so whether they're the heated grips that I've got on the bike now or heated grips that I put on afterwards, they're still heated grips. This has a dual USB thing off of Amazon, eBay, whatever it is. I have used it, it does work. I might put a new one on more for, I don't know how long that's been on the bike, don't know how long it's going to last for, so I would rather replace it so I don't need to worry about it and I know it's going to work. Now obviously going on a trip I'm going to need to do some form of sat nav on the bike. This thing came on the bike, which is an accessory bar. I'm going to get a phone mount and use my phone, as that's what most people would do anyway. Bolt it onto there, power it off of a USB charger, which I'll probably put up here somewhere instead. So that is an easy sat-nav solution and something that most people can do relatively cheap. Because I'm an utter child and I couldn't stop myself, and Mike, one of my Patreons, Mike, one of my mates, Mike, there you go. I know you said last time that I said you're one of my patrons. You are one of my patrons, but he's also a mate of mine. He also sent me a video of his Triumph Sprint 955i with the Delcovic exhausts on it, popping and banging, and I wanted that, so I may or may not have bought Delcovic exhausts for it as well. Again, not a necessity, so I'm not going to add them on the list. It's just because I wanted to be an arse and listen to poppy bangy noises. So I've got a sat-nav, I've got a charger, I've got heated grips, I've got a bike which is more than capable of doing trips. The only other thing I need is luggage. Now, because I don't really need to pack a load of stuff, I have been speaking to Mad for Bikes. I'm gonna get myself some Rhino Walk luggage. Now, the Rhino Walk stuff is essentially a copy, if we're being honest. It's a copy of Kriega. I did a test in this video where I basically dragged a Kriega US 10 or US 20 and the Rhino Walk equivalent behind the monkey bike off-road through mud, through ice and all sorts of stuff, and the Rhino Walk bag performed very well.
My bum is wet.
It was a touch more beaten up than the Kriega was, as in the Kriega's probably better quality. The clips are a little bit better on the Kriega, but it was a third of the price or a quarter of the price of the Kriega's bag. Didn't let any water in and it was completely fine. I'm going to get two 20-litre waterproof Rhino Walk bags to go on the back. That will be my luggage, which will be more than enough. So let's get on the road and I'll tell you about the trip that I'm planning. I'm now on the helmet cam, so I might sound a little bit more muffled. There we go. That is without the Delcovic cans on. So I'll put the Delcovic cans on all the mods for the next video. Oh, the other thing is, all the lights work. Everything works. All the indicators work. There is even a hazards button. Any idea how much this was yet? No? Let me tell you about the trip, and then I'll tell you how much I paid for it. So sitting on it, I am 5'9", 31, 32 inch inseam or something along those lines. Flat foot, both sides, with a bend in my leg. It's definitely a heavy bike in general. It's quite top heavy as well, and there's quite a reach to the bars. It does have this on it, which I don't think does a huge amount, if I'm completely honest. I'm going over to the KTM centre to meet Joe, and I'm also going to go and look at something I might be picking up in a few weeks' time. These tyres are like Metzel or something, I don't know what they are, but they're sort of alright. I would probably change them if I was keeping the bike for a long time. Hello KTM, my beloved KTM. The screen's not bad. This is the aftermarket Puge or Pyramid Plastic screen. I can't remember what it is. It might even be a Power Bronze screen. I think it's Power Bronze, isn't it? That clock is very wrong. All the gauges work, all of the lights work. It just, everything works. It does take a little bit to flick into corners. I don't know whether that's the tyres though, because the tyres were a little bit square. I know the guy before me essentially used the bike to go touring on, so there's a lot of motorway miles that he did on it. So that might be why they're square, so I'll try and round them off a bit and see if they're any better. The other thing that I'm very surprised about, it's a 30-year-old bike, it's a 900cc triple, so it's sort of it should have a decent amount of power. You kind of expect it to feel a little bit sluggish, a little bit like lackluster, struggle to sit at the higher speeds. This really does not. It really picks up and goes. The suspension feels pretty supportive, to be honest. You can tell it's sort of average suspension, but it still more than does the job. Clutch is nice and light. The one thing that definitely could do with an upgrade is the brakes. I don't know whether this is because the bike has sat around for a while, or whether it needs better pads or something like that, or better discs even. The brakes are very wooden. You have to pull hard on them, and then they start working, then they go, kind of vibe. So they do kind of work, it's just not amazing. Let's quickly get on to the trip that I'm planning, or have already booked, to be fair. So I had a chat with my patrons about this, trying to work out what's the most interesting thing to do. The thing we're going on to mainland Europe for me is the really good roads start in Black Forest, the Pyrenees, the Alps in general. All those kinds of places are the places you want to go. The problem with that is that then that lumps up the mileage. My mileage would suddenly be sort of 3,000 miles, 4,000 miles, or along those kind of lines. A large portion, if not all of my budget, would then suddenly be on fuel alone. You'd end up having to spend a couple more nights, burn through hotels, all that kind of stuff. I've decided to go over to mainland Ireland, like Republic of Ireland, not Northern Ireland. Head over to the Republic of Ireland. I can't remember where the Airbnb is, but I'm going to stay sort of to the right of County Kerry, pretty much. I'm going to do the Ring of Kerry loop, which is quite a common one, like one that is known for being very pretty, very picturesque, and also lovely roads. There's a high chance I'm going to get wet because it's Ireland, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to do the Ring of Kerry loop on one day, and then the next day I am going to go up to and do a loop up to the cliffs of Moher. I think in total the trip would be about 1,200 miles, which is not bad on a bike that I've barely ridden before. So that would be return ferry to Ireland, a little bit of mileage getting there, the hotel when I'm there, and I've already booked all of this. So I'll go through full costs afterwards, after the full trip. Righty ho people, I've just come off the motorway. That was 40-50 miles on the motorway, and apart from the wind buffeting I mentioned, well, not buffeting, but the wind noise from, I assume, this thing not being adjusted correctly, that was completely fine. The only thing that's really sort of aching at the moment is my hands, because of these fat bloody hot grip things, which I detest. I'll have someone in the comments going, yeah, but they are actually better than the Oxford's ones. I don't care, they're just shit. They look shit. I hate this roundabout. This is the magic roundabout in Hemel Hempstead. It's a roundabout with many mini roundabouts on it. So there we go, that's my intro to the bike, and the grand total of what I paid for this thing is 800 British pounds. 800 quid. I think this thing is worth more than 800 quid every single day of the week. So I'm very, very happy. There's Joe. Alright. I'll see you in part 2 of this video, where I should be in Ireland. Bye.